deal with the price.
Wow, is there a raffle tonight?
Yes.
Wow, it's just massive congestion there. We do have security walking around in orange vests. They will
Orange? Oh.
orange vests. They will throw you out if you are acting rowdy. Welcome to Busybirds Open Mic Night 65. It is 65.
Yep.
I'm Les Zigomanis. I think everyone knows me. I'm the publications manager, joined by Kev Howlett, co-owner of Busybird Publishing, behind the camera. Shell Brave, who is sitting there, marketing coordinator, promotions coordinator, and one of our editors down the back, Bo Hillier, on the bell. Bo, play us a song. You probably need to hit the bell when you so as you can see, it's probably not our biggest attendance in the last 5 years, but we'll try and have a good night anyway. We're going to have unlimited time.
Well, Bo's got 5 minutes, so if anyone goes longer than 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll send security. Let me just see.
He's not here, right? Where is he?
Who?
Security.
Oh, Oscar.
Yeah.
I think he's...
Home asleep.
How about we begin with you, Marcello? You're right there. And you're going to read something called Fishing?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Fishing, yes. Living in an island, fishing for the last 10,000 years has been the most important, one of the most important activities for the islanders, in any island in the world for that matter, because you get fresh food and plenty of it. Of course, in Genostra, over the years you've heard about me in Genostra, the population from about 900 at the turn of the 19th century, now the princely, now I think it's about just under 40. But when I was there, it was much, much bigger. There was about 70. And there were still about 20 boats that could go fishing, but only 4 were used because the people that could go fishing, could be counted on the fingers of your hands. There was about 10 people, some a bit older, and so they divided, mainly 2 or 3 boats would be used. Genostra Coast was particular because there's no beach. There was just one small entrance between the rocks so that the boat could be pulled up out of the water in very difficult situations. But we enjoyed it, and just how difficult it was to live there. My brother passed away last week, came to Genostra, me and my other brother. He only stayed there for 2 weeks. And then he left, said, I'm never coming back to this godforsaken place, and he never did went back. But I stayed because I loved the place. Sometimes I wonder why, but I did. And so one night we decided to go fishing like we always had. The sea was calm, the fish, we knew they were coming in. So we decided to go with a couple oil lamps. There was plenty of oil in the island, so that in the particular spot, the light would bring the fish to the surface. Because not having any lights in the island, and in the night time people got to bed early, so that once you were out at 3 or 4 kilometres out, you were on your own. Our only sort of indication of where the island may be was the stars. We knew the stars and the time, we knew exactly where it was. And then with the volcano being active all the time, we knew where the volcano was, so it might be easier. So we started fishing. There was 5 of us. Even though I was small, I was good in the front seat to row because I could row both left and right hand. It was all a matter of because I was actually steering the ship. The other 3 would row standing up. I was sitting down. And we were doing well. Was so calm to see that the 5 of us fished. Usually 2 of them or me, we take turns, would row against the current so that the line would be nice and easy. And we were having great fun. And we were surprised for that time of the year, was nearly October. It was okay, it was great. Whenever there is a big eruption and you're at sea, you actually can feel the boat trembling. And all of a sudden we started hearing this noise. Something funny, you know, sort of looked around. We got the seashell and we started blowing, because that was to tell, in case there was another boat somewhere around, that we were there. No, there was nothing around, and kept going. Then we realised that there were small, short waves, but just fast and continuous. So we didn't like it, and most of that. And all of a sudden the sky started becoming a little bit cloudy. And we had an official who said, look, we might as well go because something is not quite right. So after 10 minutes, by the time we pull all the lines in, after 10 minutes, the wind started coming up. But it was behind our backs. So I said, look, we had 3 or 4 knots out. Maybe instead of taking half an hour, we'll go down in a quarter of an hour. And we could still sort of deal with all the rocks, avoid them. Bearing in mind it's all in the dark. Because by that time, a couple of waves hit the oil lamps, and that was the end of it. So we're in total darkness. The volcano stopped. So we were just almost going blind. And then as we got closer to the noise of the waves breaking on the rocks sort of were guiding us. As we got closer, we decided, look, something is not quite right. Who is going to swim? We tie a rope around him. So because I was the youngest, I volunteered when I was thrown out in the water. So I started going towards to make sure that we could. And then I realized as I got closer that there was no way known we could have landed. So I started taking myself going towards the boat. I went in and I said, boys, they were of course much older than I am, but we were boys, ragazzi, is no one known we're going to land there. Let's try. Lads, there was another landing, emergency landing about 2 kilometres down. By that time, the people in the island didn't realise that we were a little bit scared by then. And by the time we sort of went back far away, you know, the sea was pretty rough. And we were going against the current and against the wind. So we decided to go to the other landing, which was much more dangerous. But if we had managed to go past the rocks, we would get a bit of a calm sea. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. So I'll tell you the end of the story as well. But it was very, very scary. I've never been so scared in my life, and I lived through the war and the American firebombing my house in Sicily when they landed in Sicily. But that was the scariest night of my life. I'll tell you next time what actually happened.
When are you going to write the definitive memoir on John Ostra?
I'm working on it.
All right, cool.
Well, the first part was published by for the pier, history of the Melbourne pier.
Okay.
The first, when I was born, right up when I went to St Kilda. That's already done.
Okay, so how long before you finish all of it?
Oh, I've got to find time in between my other...
You need a PA. Hire a PA.
Yes, I do.
Sorry to hear about your brother also, passed away. Live Your Truth, which is a book coordinated by Antoinette Pellegrini, who, if I can, in the crowd. Oh, yes, just there.
Hiding in the back.
Yeah, that's right.
So, for me, writing memoir is an extremely courageous thing because you have to bear yourself to everybody, to strangers. You have to find a way to connect. You have to show you're vulnerable, and you have to show a journey. Antoinette coordinated this book, also wrote a piece. I don't think we have any other contributors here tonight.
Yeah, Michelle.
Oh, Michelle, sorry. Sorry, sitting in the wings there. This book was also Best Books Award finalist 2019, so congratulations to Antoinette and everyone involved in the book. And of course, after all that preamble, who else will I get up now?
Okay.
But Michelle. No, actually, come up, Antoinette.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, it was very exciting and feel very honoured to get an award as the finalist in the international book competition. It was very rewarding and, I suppose, validation of the book that we put together. So very excited about that. So now the next project is the second anthology in the series called A Message to Your Younger Self. So we're in the process of writing, and I've actually started some editing as well. And so we're hoping to get that published this year as well, probably towards the end of the year. So today I was just going to share just the opening of my story. I haven't got a title for my story yet, but I'll just read that out. So it was a Monday night, and I was at a spiritual group I attended fortnightly. The guided meditation was starting. We were asked to imagine ourselves on a beach and immerse ourselves in the water, the waves washing away any negative feelings we had. Instead, I found myself going back in time, back 48 years to when I was 10 and I was drowning. I had been walking in the ocean with my aunt. We had been walking together, chatting about nothing in particular. I was having fun. Going to the beach was a rare occurrence when I was young. It was a beautiful sunny day and the water was cool and the waves gentle. And I felt comfortable with the water reaching my chest. Another step and suddenly the seafloor gave way under my feet. I was under the water. I felt a moment of panic and then calm. I could see my face. I've heard that people who have had near-death experiences say that they remember looking down at their dying body. I can't say exactly what happened to me, but I do remember looking at myself. My eyes were wide open and startled, filled with fear. My hair was floating upwards and my arms were flaying. My mouth was wide open and with bubbles of air escaping and floating upwards. I was watching my life floating away. Yet I felt calm. I was watching myself as if I was watching a movie. No, even more detached than that. I was calmly and unemotionally watching myself die. The next thing I remember was being on the shore. I was sitting on the sand and my aunt was telling me not to tell my mother what had happened. I said I wouldn't. I wasn't even sure what had happened. I was watching myself drown and then I was on the shore. How did I get back onto the shore? I have no memory of it. I did tell my mother, but it was more than 30 years later, long after my aunt had passed away. Back in the meditation, I saw this little girl again. This time I held her and realised that it had been a decision point. I had a choice at 10 years of age to leave this earth. I chose not to. Maybe my spirit knew of the difficulties and hardships ahead for me and was giving me a choice. I'm very grateful to my 10-year-old self for having the courage to stay. So my first message to my younger self is, thank you for choosing life.
Thanks, Antoinette. We actually have that in common. I almost drowned when I was 8.
Did you?
I fell into a pool at a picnic and some cousin, I was flailing and couldn't swim, and some cousin pulled me out and put me on the side.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't done that, I would be standing here a dead man today. The rest of the story is true. No, I was trying to get a ball and I slipped. I had like a curved bank. Just before I go on, is there anyone who's not on this list who wants to read or...
I'm not on the list.
Oh, you're not on the list. How come you have to look around before you decide that?
I thought maybe Jeff is not on the list and I wanted to give him a song.
If we've got time, I'll sing a song.
I don't know with the crowd that we have today. I'll put you both on the list.
Kev, will you sing a song too?
I don't think so.
now that we've gone through who's going to sing, I'm going to call up a very talented designer. She goes just by the name of Megan, apparently. It's like Cher now, like Madonna. And your piece is called X. So is this like a love story gone wrong? No?
No.
Is it about working with me and now it's like I'm the ex? No. You know, you're meant to come up here and take over and stop me from rambling.
No. You did not just do that. Don't tell me you actually let people into your head that time. Well, why not? Because it's dangerous in there, you nitwit. People could get lost or worse, hurt when they explore such a place. Not to mention the sheer volume of villains and weapons available in there. Yeah, well, the truth hurts, and those villains and weapons aren't all conceived in part or whole yet. That's not the point, you numbskull. You of all people are supposed to protect them, and you should know better than to even allow them anywhere near that puddle of muddles. But it's not all bad, right? I mean, sure, there are always some risks when you tell someone what you think, but there's potential for a lot of good. And surely this topic was a perfectly safe one. Are you insane? It doesn't matter what the topic was upon entry. All you need is a derailment. Curiosity doesn't just kill cats in this realm. It kills characters. Quack, quack the ducks. No, meow the cats. No, bark the dogs. Alright, okay. Don't need to get all worked up. Sheesh, I'll find an exit in a tick. Exit? Exit? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you... Why not? What are you talking about? First you want me to get people out of here, and now you put the brakes on. Are you alright today? Of course not. I'm half left like I always am. Just carry on in this kind of manner of lame jokes and there'll be nothing left of you soon. Anyway, that's not the point. Before that heavy non-fictional detour, you last left Al escaping from Eclectic Electrics with Nat, Jen and Eli on their multi-man mover. But that was quite a while ago because I last saw Nat and Al. What? Is it even consistent with their characters? How did they get there? Well, land, shouts Nat, leaping aboard the vehicle just as Eli floors it. Being an open-top prototype, all attempts at conversation are lost to the roar of the engines. You turn back to see Klaus and the others still recovering from Jen's blast, with a few pulling themselves onto other transport, but it's easy to tell that hopes of pursuit from them grow slimmer by the second. There would be no further danger from them, at least not for now. Winding roads and mountain trees later, Silverbeard finally slows at Jen's threats to puke from travel sickness above the noise. You'd think that after all this time, Goodwood Hydraulics would have come up with a cure for that by now. But they haven't, Jen tells Nat. After all their history and inventions, they ain't changed anything about that. That's a shame, Nat answers, the vehicle sputtering to a stop. Quiet hits like a mist of fumes, but in reverse as Eli kills the power. Get off, he gruffs. This ought to be a safe enough place. Everyone disembarks. Safe enough for what, you ask, completely lost. Nothing but snow gums clumped together in every direction. This. Jen, handcuffs. Wait, what? Cuff them. 1 tree each. No, you beg, slowly understanding. Please don't do this to me. You back away. Terribly sorry, Al, Nat, but we cannot take the risk to find out if you turn out to be R. Eli holds you by the shoulders and, in spite of your protests, overpowers you and attaches you to a nearby trunk. No! Don't leave us here alone! Nat exclaims. They're operated by a hydraulic timer, the man states. I'm setting it to 3 hours, so once the allotted duration is over, it will release you. But who knows? maybe X will appear and come to your rescue.
Maybe used to be designed for us. She used to just sit quietly and be really shy and occasionally just throw out a really bizarre question like, weapon of choice, battle axe or hammer. Cheryl, are you singing or are you reading?
I'm not singing.
So you're singing, okay.
No, I'm singing.
We have a competition coming up called the Busybird Publishing's Excellent Manuscript Assessment Competition. So it costs just $25 and you can win a comprehensive manuscript assessment for your manuscript. There's different categories such as novel, memoir, business, self-help, kids picture book, poetry. There are obviously conditions in it, but you're free to enter as often as you want and you can get a assessment I'm presuming is going to be written by Blaze or me. So that's one to look out for. There are entry forms just behind Kev on the table there, I think. Yep. So Cheryl, we will get you up now to sing. What are you singing? Mimes don't sing.
Hi, I'm Shell. My thing is true stories. I'm up here today because I haven't practiced public speaking for a while and as you know I have a terrible fear of it. Hadn't prepared anything myself so I just pulled something off the bookshelf which is a biography, so sticking with the true stories theme. It's an excerpt out of Breadwinner by Tom O'Toole. Tom left school without learning the alphabet, or without even learning the alphabet. He's the founder of Australia's most successful bakery. It's bigger than the corporate bread shops, the franchises and the city bakeries, and he's done it in the little town of Beechworth, Victoria. I was in Bendigo a few weeks ago and I had the privilege of going to one of his bakeries. The customer service is outstanding. The shop attendants are always smiling and very customer focused, so I can vouch for what he's done there. This is about his marriage breakdown. It's called Dysfunctional. The breakup was mainly my fault. I always used to put all that shit onto Carol, telling her how useless she was. And if you tell someone often enough, they'll believe you. We can do that with our staff too. I used to tell Carol she was a hopeless mother and wife, but that was all my shit. I was talking to myself. I was the hopeless parent, so ironically, she left me with the kids. She wanted to keep partying. She also left because I'd become a workaholic and I wasn't much fun to live with. I'd sleep all day and work through the night. I was an antisocial bugger. It suited me down to the ground. At that time, I had no balance in my life. I didn't know how to let go. But when Carol left, it was the best thing that happened to me. I didn't think so at the time, but I needed to learn to be grateful. In every disaster lies an opportunity, and boy, what a disaster. I'm not the greatest father. I'm never going to win the Father of the Year award, but mind you, if Bob Hawke could, bloody hell, there's hope for me yet. So Carol left me and went to Fiji. She met someone within 2 days. When she rang me, I said, "Where are you?" She said, "I'm in Fiji, don't follow me." I said, "Have you met somebody?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Are you in love?" She said, "I think so." Well, both of us knew lots about lust, not a lot about love. Before Carol left, I used to work hard in the bakery, but when she left, I couldn't show my face at work or around town. I was too devastated to face my staff. I couldn't go back into the business because it was such a big part of our marriage and revisiting those memories hurt too much. I couldn't look at the spot where I first popped my head up and asked Carol, "Are you married or not?" Her answer was, "Sort of," and I didn't know what she meant at that time. Now I knew exactly what she meant. I was privileged to meet Tom, the author of this book, at a conference, and he signed my book, and in it says, Climb as high as you can dream.
That's the song.
Thanks, Shell. Do we have any announcements for anyone? Does anyone have book launches or things coming up? No? Well, that was just a waste of a call out. Michelle, why don't we get you up to read...
Ad-libbing.
You're ad-libbing.
Give me an update.
Okay.
Hello out there, it's you, woohoo, yay! Felt like the Beatles then, yay! I'm Michelle.
We're sorry we didn't get to your launch.
That's okay,
We know we had an invitation.
that is okay. Some people did come,
I was there.
Excellent.
yes. And
I was there in spirit.
yes, there was a lot of people there in spirit. And Blaze and Kev weren't there for my little speech. So, but I just thanked Blaze.
Blaze has done it to you again.
I know she has done it. Yeah, she's done it again. But it's beyond film. It's mainly I wanted to thank her purely because she helps authors like myself self-publish your books, and it's not easy going through that process, and she's always there to give you assistance and guidance. So I really wanted to thank her for that. And also I did a big thank you to Kev for designing, yay, the book, this book, which I had the vision and he just came up with this brilliant cover. So we love it. So the last time I spoke, I was interviewed on Sunrise, and then when I was going to Sunrise that morning I got a phone call from 3AW and Neil Mitchell wanting to interview me. So after Sunrise I spoke to him, and then he took it off on a total different tangent of on grieving. So there's some lessons that I've learnt during this whole process in the last month of publicity. And so with Neil Mitchell, then I've had a couple of radio interviews. We've had That's Life magazine. If you didn't see it last week, it was in That's Life magazine, where it said something like, I've taken my dead husband away with me over, around the world. Like, some of the headlines is just really, bit in your face. And we've had That's Life, and then we had the Herald Sun, and then I was up in Alexandra on the 1st of June with a friend of mine, and we were just having some brunch, and I got a text from Aisling, my publicist, and said, she asked me something. I said, yeah, fine, no worries, and I replied back to her, and she said, we've gone viral. And I just burst into tears, and I was like, this is just insane. Like, every time it's just a really huge roller coaster ride. And so at the moment, and things keep still popping up through, when I do a Google of myself occasionally, there's something that comes up. But it's 60 media outlets in 7 countries that have picked up the story. And with that, the UK and Scotland are huge. They can't get enough of it. I've got a big following in Ireland. So in 9 weeks' time, I'm heading off again, and we're going to the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, and there's a huge big Edinburgh International Book Festival, so I've trying to tap into that. We're going to take Cardboard Paul with us again, new version of him, and I'm going to get a bit more robust. I'm going to talk to the life-size cardboard cutout people in regards to getting something more robust. So we're heading off again, and during that I've been invited to do some magazine in the UK, and also Good Morning Britain wanted to do an interview with Piers Morgan, I think his name is. So that's exciting. And we're also looking at doing a book tour around Ireland, so I have to change my tour. That we've planned this trip for over 12 months. Pauline, who's my tour buddy, Her and I booked this tour at least 12 months ago, and then all of a sudden it's been hijacked a little bit with this book. But it's been a roller coaster ride. It's exciting. It's emotional, especially when I had an interview with someone from Berlin 2 weeks ago, and she was asking questions about, Paul and my relationship, how we fell in love, and our marriage and everything else, and it just brought up a lot of memories, and so I burst into tears, and she's going, "Oh, it's okay." And I said, "Oh, look, sorry," but it comes out of the blue. And during this whole journey, we talk about Paul and his struggle with cancer and the rare melanoma, but it's also bringing up a lot of those memories where I think I've pushed a bit beside, in the background, and a lot about grieving and how everybody grieves differently. And we've all lost somebody that are really close to us, and as we go through this on this journey, sometimes these emotional things come out of the blue, and I could end up in tears, or I could end up in laughter in 2 seconds, So it's just a bit of a roller coaster ride.
So you're not a robot then?
Sorry?
You're not a robot then?
No, I'm not. No, I'm very human. But so it's exciting. I'm getting a couple of little speaking gigs. So I've been asked to speak at a function, which is why I want to come back and come back from Ireland. But so the book's available. I have got some books at the back there if anyone wants to buy one. And also I've got Conversations with Paul, which is the first book. And as Shell and I and Les, we were talking about that the last time I was here, and we were talking about movies and films, and movie, and Ellen, Oprah. But I've got a meeting on Friday. Ashling and I got a meeting on Friday with a film director who is looking at maybe something with this, but it's to do with film school or something. So I don't know whether it's going to go ahead, but it's worth a conversation.
Jane,
Yes.
Did you anticipate that some of the locations that you mentioned, and not that I've read it, that some of the locations you went to in your book, that some of those people might pick it up as a tourism thing to boost and just go run with it?
Yeah, well, Stonehenge, Stonehenge, I had an interview with BBC Wiltshire earlier on in the piece, and they just took it on board and went crazy with it. So a lot of them, Buckingham Palace, that's why it's big in the UK, I think in Scotland, because we've had photos. But we're travelling again. The next trip is going to be very organised, and we're going to, with the photos, they're going to be...
But it's working without any organisation?
No, well, it's working really well, except for the book sales. We need to sell books, but
so
we'll get there.
The exciting part? The really exciting part?
The really exciting part? Look, for me, I'm just going on this journey and just going with the flow, and the exciting part for me is just getting this story out and meeting up with people that have lost somebody and just showing them that life does continue no matter what.
And you're busy.
And I'm busy, yeah.
Busy is good for you, isn't it?
Busy is good for me.
But the good thing is you just started, you took Paul away, and it wasn't for media attention.
Oh no, it was nothing like that. No, it was a promise to him. Yeah. This was all about a promise to him, and taking photos and writing the book, and that's what it was all about. And then all of a sudden, because it's a unique story, I'm the only widow apparently in the world that has done this with her dead husband.
Only for now.
Yeah, only for now. But I think we need to take shares in cardboard cutouts because he's going to go through the roof. There was only one other lady who took her, I think she was from Iceland, and took her father away when he passed away. But there's only two of us who've actually documented it, I think. But
I can see the funny side of it. You can be on board a ship having a nice tour, it starts to rock, and all of a sudden they want to lean against a person at the rails to support them.
Yeah.
There goes your cardboard.
I know. Well, I nearly lost Paul a couple of times, or covered Paul a couple of times on,
Windy day.
windy days, Stonehenge, the Golden Army in San Francisco, and when we were looking over the Golden Gate Bridge, we nearly lost him a couple of times. But
And you say that the next one's going to be robust, more robust,
the cardboard cutout will be more robust.
holding on the knees.
Yeah, well, he's
Aluminium.
it's too heavy to carry. He has to fold in three and has to be very much robust.
At
So
the airport, going through security, aluminium.
yeah, well, he would, and I'm still thinking about, because he's the funny thing about all this is all Paul wanted to be remembered is to have a little plaque in a rose garden at the Faulkner Cemetery with his ashes, because we've got him, he's cremated, and that's all he wanted. I haven't got the rose garden, I haven't got the plaque, I haven't done anything like that, and that's 3 years after. But he's sitting on the sideboard with his memorial to him, and he's got his photo and his minis and his all these bits and pieces.
Does he drink?
No. But I do get him his roses every so often. But the funny thing about all this is Paul is now famous for being a cardboard cutout, travelling around the world.
Yeah.
And he would think it hilarious, absolutely hilarious. So that's me.
Stories to travel the world.
Does
When they make the movie, can you get George Clooney to play me?
to play you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been thinking of Ed Norton for Paul because he's very much an Ed Norton looking.
Yeah, we're talking more about me though. George, or Brad Pitt. Just, you're right, I should just play me. Richard, up you come with something titled Short Story.
Thank you, Les. How do I follow Michelle?
Easy.
Anyway, I'll tell you the story of the story. I got home about 3:30 this afternoon, turned on the computer, found an email from Busybird saying it was open mic night tonight, thought about it, had nothing, went and had a shower, thought about it under the shower. Between about 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, I wrote this, and here it is. It's called Throwing Out the Love. You want a difficult job? Try cleaning up sometime. Not the house, or the garage, or the tool shed. Try sorting through the greeting cards you've accumulated over the years. The birthday cards, the get well cards, the Christmas cards, and all the others that define the life you've led. You know if you don't throw them out, someone else will when you're gone. Make the job easier for them. Throw out the love. Throw out the love? How do you do that? You start your task. The ghosts of friends long gone glide from the pages of their cards and transform into memories. You pause, think fondly of them, and then consign the card to the ever-growing pile that has to go. You remind yourself you're saving someone else the trouble. The pile grows, as does the congregation of friends in your head. People who have passed through your life briefly, those who have stayed longer, the few who are still there. People you haven't thought of for years. Where are they now? What happened? How did you drift apart? Perhaps you wanted to drift, or they did. It only takes one. You look upon the evidence that once they were there and consign the card to the pile. The memory has been noted, but that's all. There is another list, of course, of the myriad people who you've been meaning to catch up with, some for years, but never have. You used to know their birthdays. Perhaps they still know yours. Is there a message there? The birthday cards are the hardest. Christmas cards are nice to receive, but there's a part of them which is about Christmas. and not just about you. Birthday cards are different. They recognise your special day. They're about caring and love. They're about you. But you overcome the pain, you cherish the memories, and they go on the pile. But then there are the ones for birthdays which end in 0, milestones in your life. They're special. You procrastinate and start a second pile. It will only be a small pile and it won't present a problem later, but they're reminders of the memories. They have to stay. And then there's one which starts, my darling, and ends with all my love. It's from a shining time, not really long ago, but gone. It only serves to enhance the memory. You pause, reflect, and put it on the second pile. It's not the only one, of course, but they're not going anywhere. The cards create a memory lane, a passing parade of friends and lovers, of good times in your life. But they're not important to anyone but you, and you know, you've told yourself, that you're doing someone a favour in leaving a very small pile instead of a very big one. So you grit your teeth and do it. But you can't help but think you're throwing out the love.
Thanks, Richard. I was feeling good until I got here and heard that, and now it's depressed me. Thanks. Hallmark should make a happy throwing out day card. Finally, Jeffrey, you're going to sing?
Not necessarily.
Or are you going to come up?
I might tell you a little story.
Yep, sure. Everyone, Jeffrey.
Still plenty of time for someone else to do something.
I think everyone's done something except Bo and me and Kev.
You could make a cardboard cutout out of postcards. You know? Laminated, strong. Little story about me. About understanding who you are. Where you come from, or I don't know, what makes you tick. You know what makes you tick. Fishing. I like fishing. Sometimes I don't like catching anything though. I just like fishing. Sometimes I don't even put a hook on. Just cast it out there and make out on fishing.
Fly fishing.
No, just thinking fishing. So this is my story. There was a time when I was a boy that I used to tell my parents that an Indian was looking in my window. You know, as in Cherokee, Blackfoot, whatever. And I used to say, there's an Indian looking in my window. And they'd say, go back to bed, son. You're only dreaming. You imagine. And I'd say, but he's looking in my window. Now this Indian that was looking in my window had not so much war paint, but he had paint. You'll see them in cowboy and Indian movies, and that's where I think you get the image from. He had, you know, sort of paint here or whatever they do. We probably played like that as a kid. And I kept saying, but he's looking in my window. Not every night, but some nights. There it was in the window, just a window just like that. I could see his face. And that went on for a long time, and eventually, as you say, you keep telling people that it's not correct, and eventually you're saying, well, it must be I'm dreaming. Anyway, it wasn't interfering with my life. I had other things to interfere with my life. But it wasn't until probably 20 years later that I was sitting in a public hotel on a bench seat with my family. At that stage it was with my wife and children. And this woman appeared. She looked like a gypsy, you know, like the big rings, the dark hair and the clothing and the jewels. And this was in the Northern Territory. And she looked out of place, but she looked more like, I just imagined an old crazy hippie, whatever she was. But she leaned in and spoke to me. And my wife actually heard this. But she leaned in and she spoke to me very quietly. She said, I've been watching you. I'm thinking, I'm not your type. I'm married. I've got children. This is my wife. Now she said, I've been watching you closely. And then I started to feel a bit cold, like, she doesn't appear to be harmful. She said, I've been watching your aura. I'm thinking, what's an aura? I didn't quite know about that. I heard about those hippies. But she said, and you're very lucky. I'm thinking, yeah, I've got a lovely wife and children and a glass of beer, steaks being cooked. She said, you are very lucky. You've got an Indian guide. And I'm thinking, I've only had one beer.
What's in it?
I've only had one beer, haven't I? Anyway, and she said, and you're very privileged. But she said, whatever you do, she wagged a little finger at me, and she said, but don't be clever with it. And as I turned back from my wife, she was gone. And my wife was doing that, thinking, where did this person go? Because she would have had to, run away quickly to disappear from the light. So I started to understand something then, that I might be different, or stupid, or insane, but we talked together quite a bit, my wife and myself, because she was a witness. If I was on my own, I probably would have thought, no, this is not right, someone's just pulling my leg. So it was an opportunity to think differently. And I think it's been helping me, but I still don't understand it totally, so if anybody can help me, please give me a beer. No, but I still don't understand it totally, but I think one day I will. And I think it allows you to think outside yourself and deal with things like grieving, happiness, getting rid of your Christmas cards and your birthday cards. I've got a suitcase full of those. And I think I need to deal with that in a way. Sadly, but badly. Yeah, so that's me. And that's how it works. So I don't know what I can recognise, be careful. I might be able to identify a witch or somebody. No, but that's just help me understand why I think the way I am, why I do music, why I like to sing, why I like to play guitar, whatever. Thank you.
So that's it for the readers. We are doing a raffle. Winner gets Live Your Truth. Unless it's Antoinette. I don't think you want to win your own book.
No.
Kev's authorised me to give you a new car should you win the raffle. New cars may not be honoured. Shell, are you in the raffle?
Yeah.
You're sitting next to me, for God's sake. Of course.
Yeah.
Alright, so yeah, usually person sitting next to Richard wins.
Yes.
It's one of the luckiest streaks. Go sit on his lap.
We'd want to leave it alone, that's all right.
Here we go. It's an orange ticket. F3.
Oh,
Megan. Oh, it's close.
I've got two. See?
It's skipped a bit.
She's three.
There you go.
Two.
yeah. Too many.
And you could get contributors, Antoinette and Michelle, to sign it.
Yeah.
If you really want to destroy a book.
Yep. Anything we need to announce before we head off for the night, Kev? We have a Bali retreat in November.
Retreat. All right.
Yep, so 4 of you should at least sign up, especially you, Richard. And because you got very biographical tonight. Usually, you write poetry. But Jeffrey, you should sign up too. And you, Marcello. Nothing else? Any workshops? We have a book camp coming up 27th and 28th of July. It's 2 days, exhaustive introduction to planning, writing, publishing and marketing your book. If you're not interested, you may know somebody who is interested. What was our $50 giveaway, Shell?
$50 giveaway is already done, isn't it?
I don't know, yeah, someone should tell me this thing. That's a good point.
But if you go to the 2-day boot camp workshop,
Yes, that is
and also sign up
for
to go
Bali.
to the writing retreat, that money is taken off.
Yeah, it's redeemable.
Which is about $500.
Yep, so that's a really good deal. Right, Megan? Hammer or double-edged sword. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Small crowd, but an intimate crowd. Hope you have a great night. Feel free to hang around for a little bit and chat. See you next open mic night.
A few inches. Just threw it away.